Oh, what's up, Bills fans? It's been a long, long time. I think it's been since the draft first day. I felt like now is as good a time as any to do one of these, whether you guys watch it back later or come into the room. I always said one view or 1,000 views is all the same to me. Um, yeah, after yesterday, after the season, the way it's gone, 12 games in, 6-6, and just if you can write a script about, and I know there's been other organizations that have been through hell. I mean, Lions, Browns, Jets, and some continue to go through hell. If you write a script for, what's up, man? If you could write a script for, a team that just, or in a fan base that just gets teased by football gods, it's this one. It's the first one, Hussein. To have that game go down the way it did, and there's been so many like that. I mean, I thought about overtime against Tampa Bay where it's clear Diggs gets his jersey pulled and there's no flag, and maybe there's no overtime and the Bills go in to score. There's I think there was a misplay in the end zone there too. And then Perryman the guys, Rashard Perryman, I mean, not even in the league anymore, and runs into the end zone 70 yards. It's 13 seconds. I mean, just the list, that the Hail Murray, the way this team, gets these games ripped from them. You can't script it, or maybe you can. I don't know. The way the game was called yesterday from a ref standpoint was atrocious. It was just fucking, there's so many storylines for this season. You get you have an OC fired, and that's proven to be the correct decision. But then there's a lot of fans, too little, too late. And I started thinking about all the moves this season. I start thinking about yesterday. I start thinking about and you know what a move? It's the weirdest move. It's not even anything anybody thinks about, I guess. Maybe you do. I shouldn't underestimate other Bills fans, because if you're here, you love this fucking team. You love this team. And you bleed red, white, Bills, red, white, and blue, and you'll do it to the day you die, irregardless of what happens on this Sunday or 2 weeks from now on Sunday. That's why we're here. And I think a lot of fake Bills fans, there's a lot of fake Bills fans who jumped on the wagon in 2020, and they're here screaming and hooping and hollering and wanting people fired and this and that, all the toxic shit that, fair weather fans do. And if you're a hardcore, if you came into this after the Super Bowl runs, if you lived through 17 seasons and saw Music City Miracle and the Dallas Monday Night and just all the humiliations that the Patriots laid, I mean, we're tempered in raw shit as Bills fans. We are bullet fucking proof. So that's what we are. So we're there. This is nothing that we should run from or be ashamed of or hang our heads. I'm going to sound like a homer. Maybe I am. I am a Bills fan, so if I'm a homer, I'm a homer. I wouldn't have any other quarterback in this league. The way he played in that weather yesterday, some of the throws he made, the runs he made, you can't ask Jalen Hurts to do what Allen does with his arm. You just can't do it. It's just, you just watch that muddy pocket throw to Diggs, the one hole shot to Shakir on the sidelines. That maybe one or two quarterbacks other than Allen make that throw in this league, maybe. But, I look back at yesterday, and the move that made me think maybe this year maybe it's needed for this group, from the front office to the coaches to the players. I think, I look at Deontay Hardy being inactive, and I know it's why? And then Isabella brought up, I'm like, well, that was supposed to be a decent addition to the receiver core, along with Sherfield. And they've done nothing. They've pretty much just been guys. And thank God Khalil Shakir has emerged. Like, he's becoming a dude. He's becoming a baller. Dalton Kincaid is looks like the truth. He looks like a dude, like a legit dude. Cook, despite the drop yesterday, he looks, I believe he's second in the league in all-purpose yards with rushing and receiving. He looks like a dude. He doesn't have the touchdowns, but you're seeing these routes that he's running in these last two games, and you're like, where was that? And that brings me to Ken Dorsey. They didn't look at the second half of last year from Green Bay all the way till the Bengals game and say, hey, maybe we need to evaluate the coordinator. They didn't look at the end of the Bengals game where, Poyer and there's that one play that's so etched in my brain where Poyer and I believe it's Trey White run into each other and just get both knocked out of the game. It's kind of like, I think that was the football gods telling you that this group it needs to be freshened up. I think these guys have had their run. They were great guys to bring in the beginning. They stabilized everything. They helped McDermott with the culture shift and the change. And their time has come and gone. And you see it yesterday when a guy like Zacharias Zaccheaus is catching a ball and Hyde is just lost out there. There was a couple of plays in the secondary where Hyde just couldn't get there. He was just kind of like, he just doesn't have the twitch anymore. And you look at Poyer and he's kind of playing a hybrid linebacker role now out there, looking like half a robot. And I'm not attacking those guys. I'm not, it's just they've been so symbolic as Bills dudes, captains, play through injuries. And I just think last year was the time where it needed to be changed. And they were all in love, and we were in love with it. I fell for it too. The whole run it back thing, run it back, and so this group could finally win big together. And it just, there's 5 as my cats fight. Kind of symbolic. They just don't have it anymore. They just don't look like they have that it anymore. And there's a few other guys like that too. There's Vaughn is not Vaughn right now. I don't know if he'll ever be Vaughn again. Hopefully he will be for us because he's got a very big contract. I know he doesn't like playing with that brace on. Maybe he sheds it after the bye. But there's just other guys like, like guy like AJ Klein, Dodson, Shaq Lawson. There's a lot of dudes here that help build it in their own way. But I just think it's a group that needs to be freshened up. And the reason I'm singling out some of the defensive guys is that's where the collapses happen. The defense gets put out there in, closeout situations, and all the heartbreaks, either Allen doesn't have the ball in his hands. The only 2 times he did have the ball in his hands was the Jets. They went 3 and out. And then this last game where I felt like they should have been playing for all 4 downs. Davis and Allen have been on different pages all year. And it's either resulted in Allen throwing a pick, an incompletion, or Davis is running one route and Allen is throwing another. So what happened on that last play is not shocking to me. It's like, but it's so disappointing. It's because you're watching the TV, you see Davis there alone. It's like, oh my God, there. And then the ball just falls harmlessly to the ground, and you're just like, here, you're just gutted. You're gutted right there because the Eagles are going to get a chance with the ball. I felt like the Bills should have been playing for all 3 downs. There's that. There's just so like there's those plays. It's the same play that Keenan Allen gets called a fumble on in their game, and yet AJ Brown's case, there's no fumble. And then uh, Epenesa's there just a half a second too early, or too late, I should say. Maybe that's a strip sack. Bills recover, game over. Then there's the whole Sean Hockley thing where the Eagles are 5-0 and he refs and they cover the spread and all this crazy stuff. Just the phantom calls, the no calls. It's just been a season of that. But it has been a season of defensive failings late in games. It has. There's no other way around it. And you could point to the IR. You can do that. You can point to IR and say, look, our best defensive player is on IR, Matt Milano. And he is the Bills' best defensive player. There is no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. He is their best defensive player. And there's been good things. There's been good stories this year. And it's unfortunate that they kind of go by the wayside. We were all, kind of worried. I was a little worried going into the season about middle linebacker. Terrell Bernard. Who's complaining about Terrell Bernard? Who's saying that he's not an upgrade over Tremaine Edmonds? He's been great. He's been great. Oliver's playing up to the contract. He's playing the best football of his career. AJ Epinesa looks like a dude that they drafted him to be. Unfortunately, Boogie Basham, couldn't become that. I mentioned Kincaid. I mentioned Cook. I mean, I know Torrance is a rookie. He's had rough spots, but overall, he's played really good football. Spencer Brown is having the best year of his career. The offensive line has started every game. There's so many things that have gone right for them, but it just seems like everything that needs to go wrong for them does. I think the only break they caught this year was the last play of the game against the Giants. That was the one that the only time they caught a break all year. It's just everything, to get to this record. I mean, you let Mac Jones have the best day of his season, and you see this kid play against other teams. It's just like, how the fuck does this guy, how is he still starting too? How the hell did the Bills let this guy do this to them? He played his best game. I'll get to him in a second, Eric, and I'll get to some other guys too. There needs to be, after this bye week, whoever comes back from injury, and that includes Kaiir Elam. There's no reason he shouldn't be back from injury. I don't know what the hell the situation is, what's going on, but they need to either, sink, shit or get off the pot with him. Either he can play, or he can't. And if he can't play, and if he's some issue where his dad and his uncle went over McDermott's head and said, put him on the field and over Benford, and that pissed him off. And I get it. Benford's been solid. That there's situations where I feel like he's a solid corner. I think he would be a really, really good safety, a very good safety. And then Dorian Williams, I've seen enough of Tyrel Dotson running himself out of plays or being lost in coverage or slow. You draft this kid in the third round. We all bitched and moaned about Bernard not getting on the field. Why'd you draft him? This and that. They pulled him off the field after the Jets game, and they made the A.J. Klein trade. Okay. These games matter. Athletes matter in this league. Dorian Williams is an athlete. Put him on the field. Let him learn. Same thing with Kaiir Elam. Let him learn. Find out what you have. The athleticism in the secondary needs better. Rasul Douglas has been a nice trade. Have no problem with Rasul Douglas. But I say the same at safety too. If Taylor Rapp is healthy, I want to see. Well, he was, and they'll massage that. They'll put Poyer down as a hybrid nickel dime linebacker, but Taylor Rapp is playing his position because of the athleticism. Period. That's what's going on. And they need to be able to compete physically, and realize these guys, they might have the mind, but their bodies can't do it anymore. Their bodies can't get them. Their mind might say, I need to do this, but the body just doesn't follow. You have a neck injury, you have a stinger, you play the way, Poyer had to play or fought through to play at his age last year. It takes a toll on you. That's a shame, Eric, if it's not, because they can't go in. And the reason I bring that up is they can't have him in the same situation as they did this year. It's either he's on the roster and he's going to play and contribute, or you need to trade him. That's it. That's what needs to happen with Elam. And it sucks because I feel like when he's been on the field, he's made plays and he's looked serviceable. He had the one game, where they threw him in against Calvin Ridley and he got torched. Well, he hadn't played football since August. And then you put him in against one of the best route runners in football overseas and he gets picked on. Well, what'd you expect? That's what's frustrating. And if he's, I don't, I just don't like the lack of transparency, but maybe they're protecting the player, the kid. I've never heard bad about him. I've never heard of disruption. I've never heard him ask for a trade. I've never seen anything disgruntled on social media. So it's weird. But there's been positives and there's been negatives, like the special teams. I'll say the same thing about the guys like, Medikevich, Saran Neal. These guys have just kind of been here, and maybe it's the coach. The special teams gives them nothing. Bass has kind of hit a bit of a lull. Granted, those conditions were rough, but he missed 2 kicks in Buffalo. Gano is playing with a bad knee, misses a kick the following week against the Jets, I believe, in the rain, 2 kicks, and he gets put on IR. So it's like, I feel like there's certain players that have regressed. Sam Martin hasn't been good all year. His punting has been very, very poor. Hasn't shanked a punt. I don't believe he's had a punt blocked. But it's just, he hasn't helped them. I mean, in the Jets game, first game of the year, where he line drives it to Gibson and they return it. The coverage was this way. He line drives it that way, and it's game over. It's just, it's all those things that have cost us games. It's cost them games. And they were complacent with certain players on the roster, with loyalty. They were complacent in the coaching staff with, it was all about the Frazier situation. And there was the situation with, the coordinator. The whole thing with the coordinator is, you heard it from Bean, you heard it from McDermott. Oh, he's in his second year. He's still learning. And you get into the year, you're not ready for the opener. The offense, sputters. And, they have a few good weeks. They're generating turnovers, short fields, this and that. And then, Miami is the crescendo, and then it goes flat again. And anybody who watched it knows that, okay, this offense should not look like this with this quarterback. It should not look this hard with this quarterback. They put a new kid in with fresh eyes, fresh ideas, who's hungry, he's eager, and he seizes it. And you see him do good things against good defenses. And it's just like, you got to be ahead of this shit, man. You can't wait till the house is on fire and, did we change the batteries in the fucking in the smoke alarm? That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. Too patient, too loyal. They've been and with players too, Eric. With players, it's been with Poyer, it's been with Hyde. there's a certain thing with Miller. I get it. There's a big investment there, and for me, it's a shit or get off the pot. He either starts the game and sets up his pass rush moves for late in games. You let him, say, look, I can shed this brace. I can go balls to the wall. I have no problem with that. That's what I want to see, because there's 5 games left and there's still meat on the bone and crazier shit has happened. I'm not throwing in the towel on this season for them. I'm not saying they're dead in the water, but they put themselves in a real fucking pickle. Because let's just say they yesterday's game happens, but if you win the Patriots game, you win the Denver game, 12 guys aren't on the field. The Denver game, is just such a dick punch, The Bengals game where you're shooting yourself in the foot and the offense is disjointed, the rookie has a fumble there, the defense, there's a game, it's crazy, where the defense in the second half gives up only 3 points. They figure it out. They make the adjustments, but the offense is still looking for answers. Week 1, it's just, those are winnable games. Though you get those 3 games and you're not sitting here saying, oh shit, we blew it. But maybe they needed this season, maybe they needed this season as a reality check. They, sometimes you need to get bitch smacked. That's the way I look at it. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I'm not a fait accompli type, like, oh man, but they needed this to say, hey, like, we need to reevaluate what we're doing, because what we were doing is not working. There's too many McDermott spoke to it today. There's too many late game situations. There's too many blown games. And this team has won a lot of games. They would have won more games, way more games. They could potentially have double-digit wins right now. And this is a team coming off 3 double-digit win seasons straight. Well, 4. 20, wait. Yeah, 4. So they're up against it. But again, maybe they needed this. Maybe Beane needed this. McDermott needed it. And people are out with the torches and the pitchforks. There's a lot of media there that covers this team that doesn't like the ship McDermott runs. He doesn't give them the access that they were used to prior, and this and that. And they are, have an axe to grind. And we all see who they are. And, you always got to remember, they're not what's best for the Bills. They're what's best for themselves and their business. And a lot of times drama and shit, the Rex Ryans are good for them. The Doug Marones, the Doug Whaleys, that's good for them, not for us. Yeah. And Eric, yeah, thanks for bringing that back to me. And that's something they need to have. They need to reflect on what they did to him this year. They had him in stitches after a whole offseason of saying, we want you to do this. We don't want you to do this. We don't want you to do this. You get in the kid's head. You have him with an offensive coordinator that is clearly not up for the task. And we get the recipes that we've been seeing. Bad. Or let's just say very, very average for the talent that they have. Very, very average. Not good enough. That's because don't run, don't be yourself. And then players know. These guys are professionals. They're not going to bitch. They're going to do things in their own way. But you see some frustration. You see some body language. They know it's not good enough. They knew Dorsey wasn't good enough. They knew what they were asking of Allen wasn't who he was. They know that wasn't good enough. This kid is a Mustang. He's a stallion. Von Miller said the thing. You got to let him go. You got to let him run. You got to just let him loose. How you doing, guys? Long time. And it wasn't you guys or anything like that. I want you to know that, man. That was just me. Like a lot of crazy work has come my way this year. A lot of crazy work, a lot of crazy hours. And it was overwhelming and I had to adjust to it. And it's been an adjustment. but I'm gonna try to find time to make more of these. That Eric too. I mean, that's a miscalculation on them. Thinking Davis was up for the number 2 job, and we all sat here. We all sat here and said that oh, Emmanuel Sanders was holding Davis back. Why weren't they playing him more? And we've seen, Davis as who he is. Can he show up and have a game? Yeah. But he's also very inconsistent. He doesn't get open enough. Has he's sometimes the hands aren't where they need to be. And for a player that's been his whole career with this quarterback, the communication this year has been so off. It's crazy. And the reason I feel like they've played prevent so much is I can think of plays where there's players running past this defense because I don't think they feel like they have the legs in the last line of defense. And I can go back to 2019 for those plays. I don't even have to go to this year. I could think about Miles Sanders in 2019, just boom, 60 yards, touchdown. Shit, Hayden Hurst that year, Ravens, both in Buffalo, goes 60 plus yards past the entire defense. We're 5 years removed from that. Hyde and Poyer are 5 years older and a lot more injuries down the line. And I feel like, athletically in certain areas, they know that they have to cover for those guys. And you can't play like that. You can't play like that. Ultimately, it's going to catch you. It's just the last play of the game. I'm sorry, the one killer play. You got them 3rd and 15. 3rd and 15. They're going to have to try to kick a long field goal, and he throws it up to their fourth, third string receiver who's done nothing all year, and he goes up over your start. The guy is 5'8". He's 5'8". It's not like it's unacceptable. It's just like, come on, man. I know he's a guy you trust and this and that, and he's been a great soldier. We love him. We love Poyer. We will always, appreciate where they've been and what they've done. It's a shame they're not 5 years younger, but that's the reality, and you have to eventually move on from these guys. And I felt like they waited a year too long to do so. They waited a year too long, and they're paying for it a little bit as the season goes on. As you get into these 17 weeks and they try to spot these guys, they try to give them the vet rest days, they try to load management them. They even give them the odd game off here and there. Remember when Poyer popped up with a knee for the Miami game? We were all worried, and he came back the next week. But we need fresh legs on defense, more just as much as offense. We need to address the receiver position in a serious way. And again, I'll give them their due where it's due. Like I'll give them Shakir is for a 5th round pick is I think we're all happy with the way he's playing. He's our best run after catch guy. He really is. He's our best run after catch guy. He's our most fluid wide receiver with the ball in his hands. When he transitioned from catch to run. Kincaid has been amazing. They've been great. Cook, again, despite the drop, has been great. If I told you, which he is, he's 2nd in the league in all-purpose yards behind Christian McCaffrey. Can you fucking believe that? And you see the volume Christian McCaffrey gets in that 49er offense. That guy gets volume, both pass and run. They have a running back. This team that's always been, mocking running backs. We've seen it for how many straight years? And there's been some of the runs that I feel like, last game was a little weird where he ducked out of bounds, but the prior 3 to 4 games where he was putting his head down and getting tough yards, that's what the coaches said they needed to see. Breece Hall is getting criticized for not doing that here. And Bills fans liked him because he burned them for a long run and then, hit some long ones last year. But, Bills have a good running back, and he needs to be used. And it's again, I already hit on it crazy. It's just team. It's gotta. I'm not saying jettison, but a turning of the page, a freshening up. It's like the paint on the walls. You just you need spackle. You need to sand it. You need to spackle it again sometimes because it sinks in. You need to get it smooth, and you need to put a few nice coats on it, and tape off the edges. That's what needs to happen. It doesn't need to be an overhaul. It needs to be a facelift. It's still a very, very good team. It's still a very good team. And again, there's going to be fans, and there's some of you here like, you're crazy, fire the coach. They'll never forgive him for 13 seconds. They'll never forgive him for it. And I understand it. I'm not going to argue with that, but I want to know who the replacement is. Who's the guy? You can't just throw out hot offensive coordinator name, Lions guy, Houston guy, because guess what? They're going to have to become the CEO. They're not just going to, they're going to want to stand on the sign with the play sheet. Remember, you could always end up with Chan Gailey. Jim Harbaugh is a clown. That guy's a psycho. Like I want no part of that guy. No part of that guy. People start rolling out Jim Harbaugh. I instantly like he's a 60-plus-year-old dude who is batshit crazy. You want to get Bean out of there quick? You want to alienate everybody there? Bring him in there. Go ahead. It's just no thank you. I don't see anybody out there. You got the coach with the best winning percentage in franchise history. Granted, he hasn't been to the Super Bowl. He's not Marv Levy yet, but he broke the drought. He's got a lot of shit going for him. He just signed a 3-year contract, and it's again that's the thing, Matt. It's like they need to be ahead of this stuff. That's something they needed to really take a hard look at. And I get it. They felt like it was going to work. They felt like another year, more experience would help. And it didn't. So they have to take that as a lesson. Hey, we can't rest on our laurels. Every year, everybody needs to be looked at hard. When you have this type of quarterback with this team, you need to everything needs to be done. Everything. Not one stone needs to be left unturned. You said something earlier, Eric. Offensive line has been better. It's been, the cap space. I'm not worried about that because teams, and Bean has shown he can be creative. I'm not worried about that. He's shown he can be creative with the cap. He's shown he can be creative in the draft. He's shown he can be he's aggressive with trades. I'm not worried about Bean's acumen to acquire people, nor his willingness to. This isn't, the Bloody Knicks days or the Tom Donahoe days, and he threw around cash, but you never felt like you had the respect that was needed to be able to get on the phone or get in these rooms and these meetings and get deals done properly. And you always felt like the Bills, just had to be fleeced at the other end, like with Mario Williams, where you're holding the guy hostage and claiming Sean Merriman, and he basically doesn't want to be there. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it needed to happen. There was a lot of people that have a set against this coach for, again, media is different. There's people he doesn't credential or allowed to be credentialed. There's things that happened in the building prior that he knows about that he doesn't like, and he doesn't want those guys there. And those guys as friends don't like that. It's a very cliquey business, and take it for what it is. And they're going to drive the narrative home till they feel like he can get fired. I mean, all these media guys are fans of other of teams and other things. Like, you can see it. They tweet about it. They don't hide it. Who, I mean, Mike Florio, that douchebag. Who gives a shit about that guy? There's another clown. Like, who, like, I don't need, this is one thing I get. It feels good. It feels nice when you see validation and you see praise, but forget all that. It's like that hoodie they have, Buffalo versus everybody. Yeah, that's, that's it right there. Like those guys, like, what do? They just sit and make opinions about, they all they do, they're critics with a platform. They're that guy that is he did he tweet about somebody signing Colin Kaepernick, or I mean, in the last few months? That was his shtick. How many times has he tweeted about Brady? How many different teams is Brady supposed to come save this year? Wasn't he supposed to come save the Browns? Wasn't he supposed to um go save somebody else? I mean, this fucking guy's a clown. There's a lot of these clowns too. There's a lot of them, man. You know, you live here in New York, North New Jersey, you see a lot of clowns. I gotta buy one. I don't know where to get one. I gotta find one. I gotta buy one. I saw Brady wearing it at the practice, and I was like, I've seen the hoodie before. But I was like, shit. I gotta find one to buy one. I don't know where I didn't know if the Bills were selling them or there's that one Buffalo store or whatever. I know the Bears just took the lead, but you know, I really feel like there's been good moves made, and there's just been some missteps, and just the age of the team in certain spots has caught up with them. And Eric, I could talk about why the way he's criticized, but nobody's gonna like that. He's a corn pone farm boy that's fair haired, and he's an easy mark. And let me tell you a crazy stat. Jalen Hurts has more turnovers than Josh Allen, more fumbles lost, and a couple of less interceptions. You hear nothing about it. Sam Howell they found a quarterback in Washington, right? Granted, the kid's offensive line plays terrible. He has the same amount of interceptions as Josh Allen. Like it was nice to see Darius Slay say yesterday. It's like, did you see that guy play? Like, I don't know why he gets criticized. He's like, if you throw the ball damn near, you throw the ball 50 times a game. The amount that he's asked to do as a quarterback, runner and passer, has he had some sloppy turnovers this season? Yes, he has. I can point to them. He's had some. And I feel like a lot of it stemmed from him being caught in between runner, passer, don't run. And he was just caught in between. That's just fucking insane. They're like, there's another guy. He can turn the ball over. You know, he goes out there. What did he do? What did he do against the Chargers last night? 157 yards passing indoors. Like, is anybody scared of Lamar Jackson late in the game? No. No, he's a white boy, and he's an easy mark. That's what I'm gonna say. He's a very easy mark. He plays for a small market team. He doesn't have a big high profile owner who's going to get on these outlets' asses the way let's just put it this way. Dak Prescott, who's 3.5 years younger than Allen, has not the playoff success of Allen, not even close. Their window's fine. Their window's good. But Allen, who's shown way more, their window's closed. Everything, blah, blah, blah. Like, case closed. Case closed. Period. Like, okay, fire McDermott. Okay, Shanahan, he's a fair-haired boy that they love because they love his daddy. His daddy has all the right friends, the lobster. That's what they used to call him in Washington. Hasn't he been known for choking in big spots and vomiting all over himself in Super Bowls? This is my first stream, Frank. My first one. So, like when I watch who they protect and who they critique. Like they're very, very their standard of critique, their levels are very, very, let's just say there's a shit ton of bias and there's a shit ton of relationships behind the scenes that play into the way they talk about people and don't talk about people. That's all I'll say. And it's transparent as fuck. So these douchebags who get up on ESPN and they got all these little lipstick these lipstick dolls up there. These chicks have they've never even played a touch football game in the backyard, right? And I know I'm going to come off as sexist and misogynist, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to hear women talk about football. I have no desire to hear it. Like, do they want to hear me talk about makeup and handbags? Really? Do women want to hear me talk about like some Gossip Girl show or shit like that? Fuck no. I don't blame them. I don't want to hear them talk about football. Yeah, dude, like Frank, don't even like I know why. It's obvious why. I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to see why. Yeah, I mean, again, like they've won their Super Bowls, Eric. Their coach has been there, and you get that clout. Once you've done it, once you've gone to that mountaintop and you've reached it, you get the street cred. And that's just the reality of it. They're eternally going to get it. Thanks, Crazy. I appreciate it, man. But never the ruin. Just so much crazy schedule. You know, Maggie and Pierre Love pissed me off. Yeah, I don't know who that is. Eric. So that's what I mean. Like that. I could care less about these people. I really can. I mean, I see what Bills fans repost on X, but it's just like, why do you what do these people's opinions matter? Like they just have nice, comfortable, cushy gigs in a studio somewhere. They don't have to really work hard. It's a lot of nepotism and BFFs and who you know jobs. That's these people's opinion. It's all scripted. It's all ready to roll. So I don't know if Addison caught that, but if he did, nah, Dobbs let him out of bounds. I'm going to read your thing, Matt, right here. I feel like if he's on the Cowboys, Allen would just be like out everywhere. I hope so, Captain. I hope so, man. I really do. Again, Trevor, it's just he's a small market quarterback with an owner that doesn't have a heavy hand in the league, who's still like feeling his way in the league. His wife is sick. She's getting over a heart attack. That's all I ask too, Crazy. And I wouldn't trade this quarterback for any quarterback in the league. Biased, not biased. I feel like the talent is here still. They just need to go on a run. But I stated my reasons for why I feel the season went the way it did. I don't feel like they were complacent. I feel like they just trusted in too much of what was rather than, okay, this is where we need to go and it's going to be hard, but we have to do it. Like walking away or letting go or not re-signing Poyer and letting go of Hyde is hard. It would have come off as cold, but I think there was a time and place and it needed to be done. It's just like Trey White, just like Trey White, they're going to have a conversation about Trey White. They're going to have a very hard conversation about him because this is the second year. This is the 2 of the last 3 years. He basically came back late last year because he wasn't comfortable, was very much like Vaughn is now, just kind of a shell of himself, not the same, not feeling aggressive, and was in between. So that's a lost year. He goes down in week 4 this year, just backpedaling, blows his Achilles. Freak play, non-contact. Granted, he's already, well into a rehab, almost 3 months, but still, like what's he going to be like, next year? He's on an okay contract. And I look at I still look at the landscape of the division. Are any of you guys afraid of Tua? That offense is built on the speed at receiver, particularly Tyreek Hill. Once Tyreek Hill loses a step, bye-bye. Because I will say it again and again and again, he's the greatest track athlete to play football I have ever seen in my life. And once he loses his step, his burst, that's it. It's over. Like he's going to just be a small receiver. I'm not afraid of them. The Patriots they're going to go through what we all knew they would go through once 12 was gone. And Belichick got exposed, which he is. The Jets are the Jets. They're nowhere. I want them to bring back Rodgers. I want them to bring back all that crew because they're going to get the same result. Maybe worse, if you can imagine that. So the division standing, I'm fine, irregardless of what the Dolphins are doing, because I don't feel like their quarterback is I think their quarterback is smoke and mirrors. He's a one-read quarterback who can't do anything else, and that's it. He relies on those receivers to be in a spot, and that's why he throws a lot of weird interceptions, because he's 1, short, 2, doesn't want to get hit, 3, can't really come off his first read. And when he's asked to, he turtles up and takes sacks or throws it in the seats. Yeah, I hit on that earlier, Frank. I mean, again, one of the good, we all kind of looked at it. I thought about trading Ed Oliver. I mentioned in this room, and they gave him a contract extension. And I'm like, okay, but it's proven to be good. It's proven to be, that's what I mean. They need to start turning it over to the younger guys, to the Olivers, to the, Bernards. This needs to become their team. Milano when he comes back healthy. Floyd has been a great addition. Great addition. I mean, again, we look at the defense, and Daquan Jones has been a great signing was just a great signing. I think they'll be able to keep him. But there's a signing they can point to, and there's an injury that McDermott can point to and say, look, I had at times anywhere between $80 to $100 million in defensive talent on IR in the form of Von Miller, Trey White, Daquan Jones, and Matt Milano. What do you want me to do? I'm starting different corner combinations. My safeties can't run anymore. And granted, he's part of making this roster, so he needs to look at himself and say, hey, I can't do that shit again. I can't do this shit again. You're right on Bernard. You hit on that. Oh, shit. I feel like Dorian Williams, I think he plays the game too fast, if you can say that. Like when that guy, the game slows down for him, that kid's going to be a player. I'm happy with what I've seen from him. I don't know the mistakes that they've talked about, but I'm happy with what I've seen. They've hit on things, but they've missed on things. The receiver signings have not done anything. Deontay Hardy has done nothing. Sherfield has done nothing. You're inactive yesterday. Ty Johnson has been a nice little revelation, running hard, yards after contact, up off the practice squad. Perfect. Running tough. I've stated all the reasons why I feel like they've done good things, but they also need to, get some young, hungry dogs in here that want to be a part of it. And the Bills are still a destination. Make no mistake about it. You don't have guys like Diggs, Allen, Von Miller, Matt Milano, and not have clout. You have you have clout. Use it. Use it. A new stadium on the horizon, an amazing facility, a GM that has a lot of professional respect and has good standing in the league. You don't listen to disgruntled players like, Quentin Spain, who hasn't been in the league for 2 years and was released because he was a hothead and got into it with the offensive line coach. Yeah, I mean, I've alluded, Spencer Brown, and we were all worried is having his best year. Torrance has been solid. There's a lot of good things to point to, but there's guys that are just kind of, I don't say playing out the string. It's tough because you want so badly for them to win too. It's like Eric Wood. It's like Fred Jackson. It's like all those guys. You wish they could have, Kyle Williams. You wish Lorenzo Alexander. You just wish that they had been younger and they could have been, apart. But that's not the league. The league is cold. The league is vicious. The business is vicious. And I think Beane and McDermott have to learn to be vicious with it. In some cases, and be a little bit more calculated, with what they do, just a little bit more. And I'm not saying they haven't been, because I feel like they have. Beane has been aggressive at the draft table. He's been very aggressive. He's been very aggressive in free agency. There's been sage moves. There's been very, very, good moves, and there's been moves that are like, but then again, they're human. They're gonna have moves that aren't good, and we're gonna be like, oh shit, that didn't work out. Cody Ford didn't work out. Wyatt Teller, you should have hung on to him. Just there's gonna be those, but there's gonna be good ones baked into that. Russeo's another guy. He's looks like he's finally healthy. Yeah, it's coming. It's here, and there needs to be more. That's why I mentioned Elam earlier. You need to find out if he can be a part of this. If he can be a part. And I know Douglas is, he's a guy, he's under contract next year. Oh, that was a nice pass from Dobbs. See, that's the kind of pass I want to see to Kincaid. And you see when the game is going to slow down for that kid, how nasty he's going to be. How he is nasty. Loose hips, better run after catch. I think we all want to. I want to, and they played like it. They played angry. They played with, an offensive edge. They played a good first half of defense. It's just certain things. It's just the same things, and they can't continue to happen. If he's ready to come back, I think he needs to be active. He needs to be out there in some capacity, whether it's on special teams, whether it's, rotating in a corner. He needs to be in uniform and have a feeling like he's going to play and feel like he's practicing for something. He's a guy that Beane traded up for. He's a guy with a ton of athletic skill. He turned around a playoff game for you. He kept Patrick Mahomes out of the end zone last year on a play that they turned over the ball, and he flipped it. You know what I mean? So he's shown the ability to do things when given the opportunity. And you can point to like I mentioned, the Jaguars game. Okay, it happened. It happens to a lot of corners. AJ Green cooked Trey White in his rookie year. Cooked him for 170 yards and a long touchdown. So, yeah. Like, you're watching this Bears team with a young quarterback, and he seems dynamic. They're going to blow this game and lose. They blew the game against the Lions. The Lions now are reminding me of the Bills. Like, they're playing it close to the vest like last year. They're finding ways to come back after being down by so much. But you see on Thanksgiving, they fucked around so much, they ended up losing. They probably should have lost to the Bears if the Bears wouldn't shot themselves in the foot. They got smoked against the Ravens, didn't come out ready to play. So for me, and I was big on the Lions. I thought they were going to take a huge step, but they don't look like they're up for it. And the reason they're like a team like the Eagles, they've have guys that have been through it all, like Kelsey and Graham and Cox, even though he was hurt. Just Slay. They've just Bradbury. They've been to the Super Bowls. They've been through the meat grinder of deep playoff runs, and Lane Johnson, even though he didn't play, Julio Jones, they've been through the meat grinder, and they know how to like calm it down and keep it stabilized. I believe they will. I believe he'll get. They'll look at the contract and see if it's there. If it's not, it's there. I think he's a guy worth keeping for a couple of more years. Well, the Cook thing, you drop a touchdown, you don't run hard to pick up first downs, you don't put your head down, and it's not like it's like the week prior, they didn't lose anything when they brought in Murray or Ty Johnson. Cook is very, very good, but Murray's been running good. He's been running hard. Ty Johnson's been running hard. I don't, you bring up Davis there, Frank. I don't see, he's a captain, but they have to, what type of contract is that guy going to, somebody going to overpay a receiver that catches, 50 balls and, 6-7 touchdowns. They're going to pay if they are. No, I see that there's another situation. It's like, and it sounds cold, and I didn't want to bring him up, but it's the same thing to a lesser degree, even a greater degree than Poyer and Hyde. Like, you have Hamlin on this roster and he's here. It's almost like he's a mascot. He's a mascot that doesn't, he's not on the field. He doesn't play on special teams. When he showed he was a good special teams player in the past in his rookie year, he had the tragic thing happen to him. And now he's just been relegated to the inactive, like, mascot role, where his story gets told before every game and he gets to throw up his heart sign and all this stuff. It's like, look, you got to be, oh man, that's a brutal turnover for the Bears. That is brutal. It's, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, but it's just like, that's a roster spot. That's a roster spot. And it's kind of like they didn't want to cut him to look bad. They want to like be nice to it's just, that's what I feel like. I feel like he's, a glorified mascot. Couple of plays, multiple try, especially when he's reading some of your comments. Probably, I could see that, or at the end of this year, or I could see that, Captain. I could totally see at the end of this year, he comes out, says he wants to, he just wanted to prove he could come back and play, and he wants to go do other things, or who knows, maybe he wants to continue his career. I just, I think I mean, Trevor, it sets up perfectly. It's like he's a young, hungry, open-minded guy who's, you've fallen into this opportunity with this quarterback, and the situation is what it is, whatever. It couldn't be more like, I know it's tough. You wish it would have happened earlier, but here it is. He's taken the long road to get here. He's been fired. Everybody gets fired in Carolina. And I'll talk about that too, because I think Frank Reich, not as a head coach, not as the offensive coordinator, but as a quarterback coach, a guy who could be a buffer, a guy who could be a sounding board, a cooler to Josh on that sideline in that stadium, a guy who knows every inch of that turf, who's been on that field and in that stadium for every possible situation. There couldn't be a guy that's more perfect to have for him on that sideline. Just more perfect for him to be able to talk to in between series, a guy be able to just, and the thing that I liked yesterday more under center, there was more runs from under center. There was, and the one play I hated was the first run of overtime where it was out of shotgun, where you give it to the running back standing still. It just pissed me off. And that should be a learning experience. We got to stop that shit. But again, there's reasons to be positive, and there's reasons to feel like dog shit today. I mean, shit. It took a miracle kick. I said it to Eric last night on Instagram. You have Jason Tucker, arguably the greatest kicker in NFL history, miss a 44-yarder indoors at SoFi Stadium. And then you have Elliott hit that fucking kick in a monsoon on grass. It just, you can't imagine. You can't imagine. I know he's injured. And I think the Colts situation is a disaster too. I think it's a disaster. I know they're having a little bit of a solid season for their standard right now, with given how everything is. I think they wanted Anthony Richardson. I think that's who Frank Reich wanted. I think he wanted Richardson. I feel like the owner thought that was too much of a heavy lift in terms of development and time. I feel like he would have wanted to have start Andy Dalton the whole season, let Richardson learn. The owner wanted no part of that. He wanted a quarterback that would be on the field, filling boxes and suites, seats, merchandise. Only the Bills get that lucky. I swear, Eric, only the Bills. Only the Bills. Only us, right? But, oh, wow. 2 minutes left to go in the fourth, nut crunching time. Yeah, and you don't want an impulsive owner, man. You don't want an impulsive owner. You don't want an owner with a twitchy finger, and everybody's on to the hot offensive coordinator guy, with the whole thing that's going on. And I'll always say, like, look, I've seen a lot hot offensive coordinator guys become not hot fast. You watch this league long enough, you'll look back and see some of those names like, oh my God, remember that guy, remember this guy, remember that guy. I mean, Adam Gase was a hot young offensive mind, and where did that go? That guy's not even in the league. He's in his mid-40s. He's not in this league. With Peyton Manning's endorsement and all that stuff. There's a lot of guys, that find their way out of this league fast. Josh McDaniels, when he's not calling plays for 12, it doesn't look good, does it? It doesn't look good. Well, I think there's a time and place to change everything, Matt. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Yeah, they are. I mean, Jesus Christ. They're probably still paying Botterill. They might even still be paying Bilesma, for Christ's sake. I don't think they want to do that. I don't think they want to go that route. I mean, they went that itchy figure, and then they learned a really hard lesson with Rex Ryan. Maybe a blessing in disguise. A guy who's unprofessional, who's not buttoned up, who's just a clown show through and through. You could always end up with one of these guys, man. You could always end up with, on the surface, McDaniel looks like, a legit dude. But he brings all his John Carroll boys from college with him and all his buddies, and it turns into a fucking shit show like that. How many teams have to learn their lesson, before you see who these guys really are. And it's just like, This isn't good. You know, Salah is a guy, you know, he runs he you know, I'm not trying to berate and stuff, but he runs a country club here at Florham Park. It's a country club. All those kids run around there and do whatever they want. He runs a very loose ship. Very loose. And you see it. You see it on Sundays. You see it in the 3 years that he's been there. Look at the results. You could have that. You can end up with that. And when you have a quarterback, you have your pick. You have your pick. People will line up. You know, so you can be picky, you can be choosy. Bills had nothing when they're hiring guys like Chan Gailey, Doug Marrone. They had nothing, not a fucking thing. So, I mean, the standard is so different. It's so different. We're in such a different spot. Well, you know what it is he's got to say things now because Fox is paying him a lot of money to go in the booth. He's got to still keep his name out there. You know, it's his first year not playing, so he's still edgy competitor. So he needs to you know, say things to like, hey, when he gets in the booth, like you're gonna see some, you know, some Tom Brady stuff. You know, again, we'll see. We don't know what the future holds, Matt. We don't know. We don't know. They have to give him the full-time job first. And, you know, and hopefully win big. You remember, it's shit. Dable got hired off 13 seconds. That was his last game. Shouldn't have been, but it was. But they haven't been good here. You know, like they haven't been a prolific offense. And granted, he has Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito. You know, a lot of Giants fans are celebrating about yesterday. They scored 10 points yesterday. They scored 14 points against the Redskins. They scored they've been very woefully average to horrible on offense. You know? Granted, they don't have the receiver talent. They're still young in their build, but remember 17 is the engine. He's the thing that drives the bus. And I feel like it was a twofold issue. I feel like the offensive coordinator wasn't up for it. And I feel like the organization, being a McDermott, told him he had to, you know, curtail his running. And you saw it yesterday when he went. It was just like, there it is. The defense shits itself when he starts downhill. And the fact that they tried to like neuter him is criminal, and they need to look in the mirror and say, there's number one thing we can't fucking do again. No, they basically, you know, it was a mutual parting of the ways. What's up, Doug? How you doing, fly baby? It was a mutual parting of the ways. They went one way, he went another. I mean, the defense is the same, maybe slightly more aggressive without him. You could argue the injuries, you know, have been the same. I mean, they lost Vaughn this year. The Trey hadn't quite come back yet. It was kind of a shell. Hyde went down early last year. This year it's Daquan. This year it's Milano. This year it's Trey again. So it's been kind of the same script where, you know, they've lost. It's not been depth guys. It's been big time players. Big time players. And, you know, but that's the league, man. Nobody's going to cry for the Bills. Nobody's going to write them letters. And I feel like for the most part, they played good defense. I feel like I can point to a number of games where they held it down. You know, the second half of the Bengals game, the offense wasn't up to it. Only 3 points. The Giants game, the defense, you know, does its thing. The shit. There's been that. You know, you could say like the Patriots game, you feel like you need to stop the Patriots there. You need to stop Mac Jones. The Jets game, the the Jaguars game, I feel like the offense sputtered. They had big lapses in that game where they didn't put it together. They just didn't put it together. So, you just point to so many of these games. The last drive. I mean, there's only so many times you can put your defense out there when they're eventually going to get got. And the later games go, the more tired guys get, concentration wanes, you're not as fast, you're not as sharp, the pressure ratchets it up, and things happen. Guys bust coverages, guys get loose, and you just got to avoid those situations. You just got to do everything in your power to avoid them within the 60-minute game, and not, make sure it's over, with 5 minutes left. It's like, there's no way they can come back here. Yeah, I mean, there's that game, there's that game where he just throws it up he's not even throwing that up for the pass interference. He's throwing it up to get pass interference. He's not even throwing it up. He's not even throwing it up to for the completion. He's just throwing it up to draw a flag. Yeah, strip a home game away, make them fly overseas. I hate that shit. I am so tired of that overseas series. Nobody gives a fuck. They can comp those games, and they can just try to fill. They basically, those tickets don't sell for a lot of money. I know for a lot of Americans who went over there for not a lot of money, and they basically just gave their they got pretty reasonable prices. They went over there for a vacation, glorified. Okay. And it was terrible. The field was shit. And you make your players play on that. The Premier League doesn't even do that for team. Like, I don't know if you guys know anything about the soccer league over there. There's some small ass stadiums over there, like some real town clubs that are in the Premier League, like Bournemouth. Okay. Like, come on. Yeah, the defense played well. They had some strip sacks that the offense just couldn't capitalize on. Like in Denver, it's just like you stop them throughout the game, you hold them back, and the offense just can't get it together. It just couldn't get it together. It was just completely frustrating. It's like last year, they're the one score wins. Now they're L's. Well, you never want to get blown out, man. You never want to get your doors blown off and just get outclassed. Was that Colts game fun to watch, where Jonathan Taylor's just running up and down the field, and then McKenzie does what he does? You never want that, man. But all right, guys, I'm gonna jump off. It was great talking to you. There's plenty of reasons, to be positive and on a day like this, but there's also plenty of reasons to just feel like shit. It's an all too familiar feeling. The bye week is late. They need it. You can tell they need it from just a mental standpoint. They need it. The team is, tired. I feel like the coaches need it. They need to look in the mirror and figure this out. They need to get their legs back as best they can. They need to figure out who's healthy and who can go, and whatever changes need to be made. All right, guys. Let's see if the Bears can hit this kick, though, before I go. Looks like a chip shot, and he nails it with 10 seconds to go. Bears up by 2 with 10 seconds and no timeouts. So the Josh Dobbs story looks like it's come to I think the guy is a good backup in this league. But all right, Bills fans, have a good one. Take care. Love you all. Appreciate you all just coming in. Bullshit for a little while on a shitty day, shitty Monday. Should have been a victory Monday, but it was just a Monday of misery. All too often, man. Take care, guys. Go Bills always. Love you all.